Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be learning all about figurative language. So make sure that as you are listening to this mini lesson on figurative language, you have out the video note-taking sheet. You should make sure that you're writing down the definition for each type of figurative language and at least one example. What is figurative language? Figurative language is a word or phrase that does not have its normal, everyday, literal meaning. Figurative language is used when you want to describe something by making a comparison to another thing. Figurative language can also be referred to as figures of speech. Why and how do authors use figurative languages? Authors use similes, metaphors, hyperboles, and personification to make their stories more interesting. It is used by the writer for the purpose of comparison or dramatic effect. It brings more interest and excitement to your writing, to keep the reader interested in what you are writing about. How do good readers use figurative language? Good readers use and analyze figurative language to better understand the story. Figurative language helps us paint a picture in our mind, use our imagination, and has a special meaning. There are 7 different types of figurative language, which can also be called figures of speech: simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, onomatopoeia, alliteration, and idiom. Today we're going to be going over what each of these figures of speech mean and examples. A simile uses the words like or as to compare two things. Some examples are, her heart was as cold as ice. The ball streaked across the field like a meteor. So here you can see that a heart is being compared to ice, saying that the character, for example, was very standoffish and mean. The ball streaked across the field like a meteor. That would mean that the ball went really fast, like a meteor. Some more examples here are, she was as smart as an owl. The student was as quiet as a mouse. My backpack was like a bag of bricks. So your backpack being like a bag of bricks would mean that it was very heavy. A metaphor. A metaphor compares two things by saying one is the other. Some examples are, she is a walking encyclopedia, which means she's full of knowledge. Life is a curvy slide full of twists and turns. So that means life has its ups and its downs. Some more examples are, the strawberry was a fresh summer day. The rain came down in full cold buckets, which would mean it was raining very hard. The test was as long as a never-ending marathon. She read the book at a snail's pace. So it meant she read the book very slowly. Something I want to point out here, similes and metaphors are very similar, where they compare two things, but the difference is that a simile uses the words like or as. Personification. Personification means giving human qualities to objects or things. We see this a lot with nature. So the two examples I have here are, the angry sea swallowed the tiny ship. So it's talking about the sea and the ocean, how the weather was really picking up, so the tiny ship that was in the ocean didn't have a chance. The tree invited us to come and play. Obviously, a tree cannot invite someone to come and play, but a tree could look fun and interesting to go up and play in. Some more examples are, the tree leaves danced in the wind. So if it was really windy, it might look like the leaves are dancing. The chair stood up straight and tall. The car jumped to the finish line. Hyperbole. A hyperbole is an exaggeration. We use these more often than we think. Some examples are, I have a million things to do. Do you actually have a million things to do? No, but you feel that way. Usually it's only a handful of things. Sometimes if you've ever been really hungry, you might say, I could eat a whole house or a whole horse. That means that you're really, really hungry. Some more examples are, the walk was 1,000,000 miles long. I ate 5,000 pancakes for breakfast. Obviously, this is impossible, but if you are very hungry, you might say that you ate 5,000 pancakes. The bag of gift weighs a ton. Obviously, we know a ton weighs a lot, and a bag of gifts could not be equivalent to that. But if you felt like something was really heavy, you might say that it weighs a ton. Onomatopoeia. This is a sound word. This is really great when writers use this in narrative stories and memoirs. Crunch, crunch is what I heard as I stepped on the fall leaves. The jet zoomed across the sky. So, like I said, an onomatopoeia is a word whose sound suggests its meaning. So the bees buzzed by, flying back to their hive. Click the button to take a picture. The pig squealed when it saw the dog coming. Alliteration. The repetition of a sound in a sentence. So you can see here I bolded the different words that all start with the same letter. Sean soared down the street on his sleek skateboard. Ryan rides red roller coasters. Sometimes these can be tongue twisters. Some other examples are, Betsy bought bigger bottoms for baby Billy. Samantha saw 7 silly soldiers selling strawberries on Saturday. See how many times you can use the same consonant at the beginning of a word in the same sentence? It creates a tongue twister. The last one here is, Maria made millions of marshmallow muffins for many mellow messengers. The next figurative language example we're going to be talking about is an idiom. An idiom is a phrase that means what it means, even if it doesn't make sense. Some examples are, you really let the cat out of the bag. That would be an example to describe spilling a secret or something that you weren't supposed to tell someone you did. Another example of this could be, I put my foot in my mouth. This is when you say too much about something. Again, an idiom is a phrase that has a meaning different from the dictionary definition. Some more examples are, she didn't want to open that can of worms. That test was a piece of cake. Don't take the fall for your friend. The early bird gets the worm. So let's review the different figures of speech that we talked about today. A simile uses the words like or as to compare two things. A metaphor, on the other hand, compares two things by saying one is the other without using like or as. Personification gives human qualities to objects or things. A hyperbole is an exaggeration. An onomatopoeia is a sound word. Alliteration is the repetition of a sound in a sentence, often with consonants. An idiom is a phrase that means what it means, even if it doesn't make sense. So what you are going to be doing is taking notes throughout this video. If you need to rewatch or go over it again, you can. Make sure that you're writing a definition for each type and writing at least one example. It will be collected and graded. Second, you'll be completing a Google form all about figurative language based on what you learned from this mini lesson. It will be counted as a quiz grade. You can find that link for the Google form on my website. Third, you will complete the enrichment activity where you will be creating your own figurative language example for each type of figure of speech. Hope you had a great time learning about all different types of figurative language, and I hope that you use them more in your writing each day. Thanks.